Hi everyone, welcome to Eco Learning Classes. This is Professor Geeta Mahesh. Dear students, today we are going to discuss with respect to limitations of GDP as a good index of measuring economic welfare. What do you mean by GDP? GDP, you know, income of a nation. Then what do you mean by economic welfare? Welfare of an economy. It means all those things which can be brought directly or indirectly into the measuring rod of money. That means we can say well-being of people. We call it as economic welfare. Now, what is the relationship between GDP and economic welfare? Higher the income, higher will be the well-being of a person. So here you can see it means that higher the level of GDP of a country as an index of greater well-being of people of that country. You can see in the below, dear students, here, what do you mean by economic welfare? It means materialistic well-being of a person which can be measured in terms of money. We call it as economic welfare. And you know what is GDP? As I told, it is an aggregate value of final goods and services produced in the economy. If you want in detail, you can go to the previous videos and you can cross check or you can get information on GDP. So if you consider GDP is the income of a nation, then you can see here, higher the level of GDP, higher will be the level of production of goods and services. When you are producing more goods and services, that means you are able to generate, that country is able to generate higher level of income, because to produce more goods and services, we need to employ factors of production. When you employ more factors of production, then you are going to generate a higher level of income. When there is a higher level of income, when your income is good, then your level of consumption is also be high. When there is a high level of consumption, then the higher level of standard of living. See here, high level of consumption means you are not only buying necessaries, but you will buy comforts, luxuries. That means your standard of living is going to increase. When your standard of living is going to increase, it's mean that there will be a greater level of well-being. Dear students, let us discuss limitations of using GDP as an index of welfare of a country. So already we discussed that higher the level of GDP, then the greater will be the level of well-being of a country. But here we are going to discuss at least three reasons why GDP cannot act as a good indicator or index of welfare of the country. Now, the first one is distribution of GDP. If GDP is distributed equally, there is no problem. If it is distributed equally among four factors of production, then yes, GDP is a good indicator. But if it is not distributed equally, then there is a problem. Then we can conclude that GDP is not a good index. Here you can see if GDP increases, welfare may not rise as a consequences, because rise in GDP may not be equally distributed. To understand this in a proper manner, let us take an example. Suppose in 2000, a country with 100 individuals, each earning rupees 10. See here, we are talking about the year 2000. In 2000, in that particular country, there are 100 people and each one is earning 10 rupees. So then what is the GDP? 100 people and their each person's income is equal to 1000 rupees. So 100 into 10, you are going to get 1000. In the next year, the population being same, that means we are keeping 100 only, and we made an assumption that price remaining constant. Because when you calculate GDP in terms of real and in terms of nominal, if nominal GDP is more than real GDP without producing more goods and services, then the GDP is increased because of increase in price. So because of that reason, we need to make an assumption price remaining constant. If 90 people income or people earning is just 99 rupees. Previously how much? 10 rupees. But now it is how much? 9 rupees. 10 people earning rupees 20 each. Then that means 10 people income increased from 10 to 20 rupees, but 90% of people income from 10 to 9. That means there is a drop or fall in income of 90% of people. If we calculate this information or use this information to calculate GDP, then you can see here GDP is equal to 90% of or 90 people income is 9 rupees and 10 people's income is 20. So 90 into 9, 8, 10, 10 into 20, 200. If you add, you are going to get 1,010 rupees. Previously, what is the income you got? That is 1,000 rupees. And in 2001, if we consider, that is next year, if we consider, there is an increase in the GDP. By seeing this increase, can you conclude that welfare of the people increased? No, because 90% of people's income dropped by 10% and only 10% people income increased by 100%. So 90% of people become worse off. Yake worse off? Because they are earning only 9 rupees. Previous year in 2000, they were earning 10 rupees, but now they are earning only 9 rupees. So 90% of people have become worse off. Even though there is increase in GDP, then surely we can say that GDP is not a good index. Dear students, let us apply the same example to India. Let us assume in India there are 100 individuals and each is earning 10 rupees. Keeping prices, see here, price remaining constant and total population remaining constant in 2000 and even in next year, that is 2001 also remains constant. So 100 people are earning, each one is earning 10 rupees. So what is the GDP? That is 1000 rupees. But next year what happens? The population remains constant, but 90 people's income is 9 rupees and 10 people earning rupees 20 each. Then if we calculate a GDP, 90 into 9, 10 into 20, then you are going to get 1,010. Previous year 1,000 and this year is 1,010. There is an increase. GDP has been increased. But you should remember one thing here. 90% of people income decreases by 10% and only 10% of people increased by 100%. That means it was 10, now it has become 20 rupees. So 10% of people increased by 100 times or 100%. But if we consider poor people or 90% of people income decreases. Previously their income was 10, now it is 9 rupees. That means there is a fall in income by 10%. So here, how can you say that GDP act as a good indicator when 90% of people are poor? 90% of people are poor and are become poor, and only 10% of people have become rich, or the increased GDP is enjoyed by 10% of people and 90% of people's income has become worse off even though there is increase in GDP. So because of this reason, we say that GDP is not a good indicator. The second one is non-monetary exchange. Dear students, if you consider non-monetary exchange, there are many activities where we undertake without using money. So many activities are not well evaluated in monetary terms, and those activities are not included in the GDP. So non-monetary activities are not included in the GDP. Take example of barter system. Before introducing monetary money, there was existence of barter system, but after introducing money, this barter system is not brought under monetary system, and when you exchange goods with goods, then they are not valued, evaluated or valued in terms of money, so it is not included in the GDP. And you can consider even the services of women performed at home are not paid. When they are not paid, so it is not included in GDP. But because of domestic service performed by women, the welfare of people is going to increase. As it is not included in GDP, we think that there is a less GDP, but actually welfare of people is more. Why welfare is more but GDP is less? Because by rendering domestic services, the welfare of people is increasing, but because it is not paid, it is not included in GDP, so GDP is less. Now, in this case, how can you say that GDP is a good indicator? And similar manner, monetary exchange, non-monetary exchange are exchanging of goods with goods. Also not included, as I told, barter system is not included under GDP. So this led to underestimating of GDP. See here we say GDP is less, but actually welfare is more. So this we call, when you are not going to include non-monetary exchange, then we conclude that GDP is less and welfare is also less. But actually welfare is more, but GDP is less, as we are not including non-monetary exchanges. The third one is externalities. What do you mean by externalities? It refers to benefits or harm a firm or an individual causes to another for which they are not paid or penalized. I repeat once again, it refers to a benefit or a harm a firm or an individual causes to another for which they are not paid or penalized. Let me take an example that a person is going to establish a industry. Okay, in a village. He is going to establish an industry in a village. Okay, in this village, everybody, those who are living, they will get a employment opportunities. Okay, and at the same time, in front of this industry, they can establish shops and they can become a self-employed too. So all those people who are self-employed by opening shops and all, then they are not going to pay. They got a benefit by this person who is going to establish industry. These people are not going to pay anything. They are not paid. So for getting a benefit, this person or industrialist is not paid. And at the same time, when industry is established by an industrialist, it is going to pollute. Okay, because of pollution, these people, those who are living in the village, may feel sick, may be unhealthy, sound pollution, water pollution, air pollution, all this nonsense will happen. For that, this industrialist is not going to pay anything. And these villagers are not going to penalize him for harm which he is going to make by establishing or create by establishing an industry in the village. Now I think you are able to understand. What is externalities, dear students? Externalities refers to the benefits or harm a firm or an individual causes to another for which they are not paid or penalized. Externalities do not have any market. So you cannot bring those things. I am created a benefit for you, so you have to pay me. Like that, they are not going to bring and sell. And at the same time, all those people who got uh, disadvantage or harm, they cannot come and say that because of you people we are facing this type of problem. So there is no market for these externalities where you can bring and sell it or brought and sold. There are two types of externalities. One is positive externality, another one is a negative externality. Positive externality means if you bring a benefit, because of you so many people are getting a benefit, then it is called as a positive externality for those people who are getting a benefit. A negative externality, because of you they are getting a bad effect or there is a problem for them, and that we call it as negative externality for those people who are experiencing a disturbance or a bad effect. Okay, so that we call it as negative externalities. Let us understand this with an example. So let us suppose, okay, there is an oil refinery which refine crude petroleum and sell it in the market. So what is positive externality now? It refers to the benefits a firm or an individual causes to another for which they are not paid. So under positive externality, we will be talking about the benefits which a firm or an individual is going to create for another, causes to another for which they are not paid. Who get a benefit? No, they will not pay anything to firm or individual who create a benefit for another person. Now you can see value added by a refinery is included in GDP. But while producing or converting or extracting the oil from a crude oil, petroleum, whatever is extracted is at its value is added in GDP. Meanwhile, because of establishing oil refinery, we are able to generate, that is oil refinery owner is able to generate employment opportunities for other people, and at the same time their standard of living is going to increase and increase in export earnings. So all this we call it as positive externality. In such cases, GDP will be underestimated the actual welfare of the country, as only we are going to include the value of oil in the GDP. Remaining, because of this industry, many have become employees and they are enjoying with their standard of living, which is not included from this oil refinery side in the GDP. So at that time, GDP will be less, but actually economic welfare is more. So here you can see value added by refineries will be the value of amount of oil. So it refers after deducting the values of intermediate goods used by the oil refinery. So only we are going to add value added by the oil refinery in the GDP. So GDP will be less, but actually economic welfare is more. Because of this industry, many other people are able to get employment opportunities and increase their standard of living. And next one is negative externalities. So what is negative externality? We are talking about a harm a firm or individual causes to another for which they are not paid. Okay, a firm causes a harm to another person. Okay, so this firm will not pay anything to that person who get harmed. Okay, so that we call it as negative externality. You can see negative externality because of industrial establishment or any other economic activity leads to pollution. Okay, so that we call it as a negative externality. But in the carrying out the production, it pollutes. We took an example of oil refinery. No, when it is undertaking its production activity, it is going to pollute the nearby rivers. And as a river is polluted, okay, it causes harm to people who use water for water of the river, and hence their well-being will fall. When people will become sick, can you say they are very good? No. And at the same time, the it polluted water will kill fish and other organisms of rivers, and which fish survives. Now, fishermen of river may be losing their livelihood, which is not included in GDP. So this negative effect, okay, reduces the welfare of people. But as we have not deducted, for example, it polluted, and to correct that pollution, no, a polluted area to clean and to no do or take back a situation, bad situation into good situation. So you need 100 crores. So this 100 crores has to be deducted from the GDP, but we have not deducted this one. So when we have not deducted this one, we feel that GDP, say from 1000 we should deduct 1000 crores, we have to deduct 100 crores, because we need 100 crores to maintain this or eradicate this type of pollutions. To eradicate and bring back the situation to the normal, you need 100 crores, and that 100 crores we have to deduct as a negative externality from GDP. But we won't do that one. Then we think that GDP is 1000, but actually welfare of the people has come down. Then in this situation, how can you say that GDP is a good indicator? See, in such cases, you can see here, in such cases, GDP will overestimate the actual welfare of the economy. GDP is more, but because of pollution, economic welfare of people has come down. So in that situation, we cannot say that GDP is a good indicator. Dear students, if you like, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.